All right, everybody, welcome once again to another episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, teaching you how to maximize your results with minimalist approaches to diet and exercise, helping you achieve a higher state of fitness independence. Today, I've got a real special treat for you. My good buddy Al is back and in charge here. We were talking the other day, and we were starting to get on the topic of a couple of common, not so much myths, but there are these so-called like sacred cows within our fitness culture, things that just we hold in such high esteem and we put so much attention and faith into, and in the end, it really may not matter at all. In fact, some of these things may even be redirecting and steering you wrong, ladies and gentlemen. So Al, welcome to the Red Delta Project podcast.
Thank you, Matt. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and share with you, your listeners. Hopefully your listeners will still be your listeners after I'm on your show. That would be a good thing for you in the RDP community. I think that I'm excited. I think we have some really cool topics to go over. I think we're going to open some eyes here and there and maybe give people some information they may not have been aware of before.
Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to is so much, especially now we've got like COVID-19 going on and stuff, our whole attention and awareness of what is exercise, like what is fitness, where does this actually need to go? We're getting everything shaken up. It's like our whole approaches to diet and exercise are getting thrown up into the air, and now they're going to be landing in completely different configurations, which I think is a good thing because we've needed a lot of stuff in our fitness culture to be shaken up quite badly for quite a while. Because when you look at the history of a lot of things about our beliefs about how exercise works and what is necessary to achieve our results, so much of our approaches and beliefs are really actually based off of more of a correlation rather than a causation, and even bro science, if you pardon the term. Like so much of the hardcore scientific stuff is loosely based on, well, this just makes sense and therefore it's got to be true, which that's my definition of bro science.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were talking about in our conversation the other day is this idea that our approach to health and fitness needs to be very like cutting edge and somewhat elitist in order for it to work. That it needs to be top notch. We have to train like an athlete. We have to take advice from the people who are like we see on Instagram with the insane physiques and everything. And we were talking the other day about how this may actually be steering us a bit wrong in what we actually need to be doing to get the results for ourselves. Catch us back up to speed on what exactly we were talking about with that.
Well, we're talking about the fact that there is so much stress in people's lives right now that in realistically, it's not going to be changing anytime soon. I mean, let's be real about that. That to really try to pile physical stress from a really hard workout consistently on top of that emotional stress might take you further away from where you're trying to end up with your fitness program. You know, it's one of those things to where right now don't focus on beast mode. You know, maybe focus on least mode. What is the minimum effective dose that you can do right now that's going to help you to relieve a little bit of stress and just flow and maybe work on a movement skill, and if you got a movement gap, maybe try to fill that in.
Yeah, totally. And I think we've had this rhetoric going through our culture for so long of you got to go everything 110%, and it's only going to be worthwhile if you can reach that 1% of success. And this is why I think a lot of people pinball and they bounce off of trying and then giving up, is because they think I've got to be able to do things 100%. I've got to do things perfect. I've got to be perfect diet, perfect workout. My workouts have got to be balls out every single time, because the only way this is going to be worthwhile is if I can look like top of the line supermodel, bodybuilder, you know, someone you see on social media, Instagram, all that sort of thing, or perform like a high-end athlete. And the fact, I mean, I know people don't like to hear it, but the fact is most of us will never get even close to that, no matter how hard we try, no matter what we try to do. Speaking from my own experience, like as a bike racer, back in college, I, uh, I like got into bike racing in college. So relatively late in life, people who are pros got into it when they were like 2. But I basically breathed and ate and slept biking and bike racing. Like I went to school, I studied, I went to the cafeteria to eat, and I slept and I raced. That was my entire life for almost 4 years. That's all I cared about, was getting faster on the bike. And I got a lot faster, and I really improved a lot. And I might be maybe 25% as good as like a semi-pro kind of thing. And so it was a real wake-up call to me that, like, look, anybody can get better at what they do. Anybody can make improvements, but we can't all be that 1%. Hell, most of us won't, statistically speaking, half of us won't even be good as 50% of the people out there, from a statistical standpoint. So I think a lot of people get stuck into this idea of like, well, if I can't be the best and top of the line and 1% body fat and deadlifting 3 times my weight, why bother even trying? And this is really shooting a lot of folks in the foot. Do you find that happening in your line of work a lot?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, there's one constant that I've seen in the 19 years that I've been in this business, and it's that if it hurts to hit your thumb with a hammer, let's get a bigger hammer and strike harder, right? Instead of trying to figure out, well, why does it hurt? And try to slow things down. And I think people are so tied into sore is more to work my core, and I've got to be this just puddle of sweaty mess of humanity after every single workout because I'm hardcore and I could tell my fit fam that I just crushed my gym sash on social media, but then the next day things hurt and you're like, yeah, well, now I got crushed by my gym sash and now I can't crush another one because things hurt. Instead of potentially just slow down a little bit, slow down, and go through progressive phases. I think right now, like Dan John, he's got his park bench and his bus bench workouts. I think people should be spending time on the park bench right now. Just let fitness happen and develop your movement habits. Don't force the issue, particularly right now. You can get back to it. It'll hit exercises and your cardio yoga, plyo, Pilates, cycle, box, X class will still be there when you're done, or when this whole thing passes and we're able to get back inside of facilities. But you don't need to be beat down every time. Our bodies aren't meant to suffer that kind of punishment emotionally, physically, in any other facet.
Yeah, I think one of the old standing ideas too is that it's stress that changes the human body. Growing up, this was the rhetoric that we even learned about in college and stuff, like your body experiences stress and then it adapts to the stress. But when you really look at it in the real world, like, we're all stressed. We're all going crazy. We're all experiencing physical stress, mental, emotional stress. And most of us are not adapting. Those of us who are adapting, we're not adapting in a good way. Yes, we're adapting by being exhausted all the time. Yes, we're adapting by having sore joints. Remember that adaptation is not in not in an effort for your body to actually progress and get better. Adaptation is a response to pull you back into homeostasis. And sometimes the best way to pull you back into homeostasis is to make it actually harder for you to push yourself hard. To say, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to exhaust you, I'm going to break you down. So that way, if you have bad knees, you're not going to go out and run 5 miles every day, so that you can't keep doing this to yourself. That's your body's way of saying, I'm going to pull you back rather than allowing you to go forward. So this idea of stress is the main driver of change. Yeah, well, I guess you could technically say it is, but it's not always the change you want. And we got injury, we got burnout, we got fatigue, and other things. Have you experienced that much even in your own training there, Al?
Oh yeah. I we talk about this kind of stuff, and I realize that to some extent I'm being completely ironic and somewhat of a hypocrite, because I used to do that, right? I used to race my mountain bike for about 6 or 7 years, and it was the same thing. It was like you would talk to other cyclists and it's like, oh, I didn't ride today. What? Oh my God, you didn't ride today. What's wrong with you? because I had a compound fracture and there was blood squirting out of my head, and my heart stopped beating and my lungs didn't work. Then I had 117 other injuries that I had to deal with. Well, why didn't you ride? It's because I was in pain. But yeah, I've done that where I burned the candle at both ends, and eventually I didn't have any light because my body said, "Hey, man, I gave you a few signs, and you didn't listen. So now you're gonna have to listen, and we're gonna make you listen for we'll just do it for 2 weeks this time. Oh, you're gonna keep pushing? Well, how about 3? It was like in the Breakfast Club, right? When that I don't remember the characters, and I apologize for being a horrible movie buff or movie trivia guy person right now. The guy, he kept getting detentions. Yeah, you gonna do this? Yeah, get another detention, right? That kind of thing. And that's what happens if you don't listen to the body, and you just can't push all the time. And I've learned that the hard way so many times. And I will be honest, I will probably learn that lesson again at some point.
I'm right there with you. I'm talking like this here, and it's like, yeah, like I know, like I'm
right.
more needing to say this for myself than anything else, because I grew up, I love that bust your butt and train harder mentality. Like for me, it wasn't a good day unless I could either crawl into bed, literally completely exhausted, something hurt physically somewhere, and I basically went through at least one change of clothes because I was sweating so much. That to me was always a good day. And
Yeah.
it was never something I could sustain. And again, it was this driving force of this is the go big or go home mentality. And I would have coaches. I've had teachers in the past say, Matt, cut back. You can do that. Sure. Go all out in your mountain bike races. Sure. But you don't need to do that every single ride. Go out and just kind of cruise around a little bit. And to me, it was always go hard every single time, no matter what. Same thing was with diet. Like, gotta be restrictive as possible every single day. And anybody who was saying, I'll just scale back a little, give yourself a little bit of a break, I wanted to just slap them in the face and be like, screw you, buddy. You don't know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to actually win here. I'm not going to be mediocre like you. And if I knew then what I know now, it's like, no, actually, again, half of the people, mediocrity would be a big step up, would be
right.
an improvement. And it was certainly for me at the time, for sure. And recognizing that we need various approaches to these sorts of things. We can't try to be the best of the best, because you look at even people who are the best, people who win on stage and figure and bodybuilding shows and sports competitions and stuff, they still have an off season. They still have periods where they scale it way back, because even they know they can't go all out all the time and push themselves to that degree.
Yeah, I was speaking with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about how their program is going to be structured, and they were just frantic because I can't get out and do this, this, and this, and I'm going to lose all this fitness and all this other kind of thing, and totally valid concerns, right? Mm-hmm. And we eventually started to break it down to what the actual goal was. And then the conversation steered towards, okay, here's a deal. These are the 3 things you're going to do to get fit. I will take care of the movement. You will take care of the first 2. First one is you're going to sleep more. Get your vitamin Z, right? I mean, how much research has come out of how critical sleep is to the whole thing, the hormone perspective. Tim and Jacko, School of Calisthenics, when every time they talk to Dr. Sally Bell, she is always waxing poetic and extolling the virtues of get your sleep, right? And then if you sleep right, then you can get into the nutrition part of it. And then if you can get into the nutrition part of it, then you've got fuel in the tank for the exercise part of it. But if you don't do that first thing, you can't get through there. And I apologize for not remembering who said this, but losing weight and trying to get lean, it's not fat loss. It's who can optimize their hormones the best. It may have been Ross Edgley, I'm not sure. At any rate, that's where it comes down to, right? If you can't get your cortisol levels under control and your inflammation under control because your diet's out of whack, or you just have massive amounts of stress because maybe there's a worldwide pandemic going on, right? And you've got your kids at home, which adds another layer of stress that I found out about. I didn't realize that all these Zoom workouts that I was doing are and project into the TV was additional screen time for the kids. So that was a lesson learned in terms of managing stress inside of the family and everything else, right? So all these little nuances are starting to rear their heads. But it all comes back down to the basics, like every single video that Matt has done, every single syllable and consonant and vowel he strung together in all of his books talks about basics work best. You can't perfect simple, because simple is already perfect, right? A simple formula: sleep more, like Dan John says, eat well / eat like an adult, like he says, and then move. And after that, what I mean, how much more can you add on to that? That's really it. Sleep,
Well,
eat, move,
that's
repeat.
where you're getting the elite level stuff, because again, a lot of their stuff that's oh, look at this person that's at the top of their game, they're one of the best in the world athletically or figure or whatever. What we look at is their attention is on the small details that are the 1% between winning and losing. And again, back to bike racing. In racing, we would agonize over the smallest details on our bikes, like tread patterns on a tire. Right. And we'd be like, well, this tread pattern, depending on the conditions for today, are they really going to make such a big difference? Yes. When you're going all out, you're trying to take that corner while bending the laws of physics so you don't crash, a tread pattern does actually matter. But I would be then working in the bike shop the next day, and mom and pop would come in saying, we want to buy a bicycle to just ride around on the bike path and go get some ice cream. And I would be talking tread patterns with them, and my boss would be like, Matt, what? It doesn't matter for them. And I think that's the realization we need to finally come to, is that so much of the stuff that we've been told is so critically important to reach that top level. Yes, that is critically important to reach the 100%. If you're at 98%, but most of us aren't there. Right. The stuff that's gonna get us even to 50% are the stuff that the person at the elite level is long taken care of. Like, you won't hear them saying, you gotta get your sleep, you gotta eat your fruits and veggies, you gotta drink water, and you gotta train consistently, because they've got that taken care of years ago. That's not where their attention is, because they've already got that. But for the average Joe Schmo, we're like, we don't think about sleep. We don't think about just going into our workout and getting things done consistently. We look at the top level person. It's like, what kind of protein do you recommend? Oh, I recommend this kind of protein. No, you don't want that kind of protein, because yes, it matters, but only for that 0.1% that they care about. But the average Joe Schmoes like us, that's not going to make really any difference at all, because it's going to take us from 10% to 11%, when most of us are going to get the best benefit from going 10% to 60%. And that's the boring stuff of, like you were saying, get good sleep, get good food, keep your training consistent. There you go.
Right? I mean, and plus, from the supplementation standpoint, you could take something that allows your engine to run with turbo. I could take the same thing, but based on my DNA, my physiology, my body might not like that, right? What if your supplementation causes me inflammation and I can't recover as quickly, or I can't perform as well? Now, if we have a gentleman's bet doing hill repeats, that's one thing. Maybe you know that. And you're like, hey, I'm going to give Al this thing so I can kick his butt uphill. But you don't strike me as that type of individual. But, all things aren't created equal. I think people really need to figure out, okay, what do you do daily? Are you getting paid to do something? Then yeah, your workout and your supplementation and your recovery program and your money spent on infrared saunas and cryotherapy or oxygen tents or whatever else, flotation devices, and your massage person, your acupuncture, your chiropractor, your PT, and your who have your army of people to keep you running at an elite level, is a lot different, because you're getting paid to do something. You have to do this or else you don't make money. But for most people, I think they lose sight of, okay, every day, what do you do? And how can you support what it is you do through exercise? Like with me, I am, I work like you, back when we were able to work with people in person, demonstrating exercises and whatnot. And then I like to ride a bike. And then I signed up, and hopefully we'll get to opening day at some point, for a wood bat hardball league to play in on Sundays. So now I got to be able to lateral and overhead rotation and diagonals and all that kind of stuff. But my function primarily is, what do I need to do to be able to play with my 5 and 8-year-old kiddos, right? That means I got to be a jungle gym. Daddy's got to be the horse down on the ground crawling around. Daddy's got to be the guy who can throw the kids into the pillows and have fun, and be the lead out man on bikes, and be the pitcher and the goalkeeper and, shot blocker and everything else. So for me, that means that I need to absolutely have dialed in. And I don't say this selfishly just from my perspective, but this applies to everybody who listens to this, is what do I need to do to be able to perform my basic squat, push, pull, hinge, and resist lateral forces on a daily basis, based on what that squat, hinge, push, pull, and what that lateral force is in my life, right? I would be a fool to start training like a Major League Baseball player, because I'm not getting paid to play. I'm paying to play. There's a difference. What I need to do is I need to exercise and develop a movement habit to the point where on Monday mornings after our season gets started, I can still function and play with my kids. That's my goal, is to play and preserve my 48-year-old ego to some extent and be able to walk the next day.
I totally agree. And that's a very good mind shift to have, because a lot of stuff out there, and not to try and ruffle feathers with certain folks on YouTube or anything like that, but there's a lot of this rhetoric of, train like an athlete, train like an athlete, train. And I used to be like that until I woke up one day and realized, my friend was like, why are you doing this? You're no longer racing mountain bikes. Stop training like a bike racer. And now when people are like, train like an athlete, I'm like, well, which athlete? Like, if you're training like a basketball player, you should be shooting free throws. If you're going to train like a baseball player, you should be going into the batting cage. Like, train like an athlete doesn't mean anything. It says, it's kind of like cook like a chef. Well, some are cooking fish and some are cooking, sushi, and some are, basically not even cooking meat at all. Like, which chef, what food? It's too vague, but it's something, again, that has that elitist ring to it. Right. That makes us think, oh, athletes, the pro athletes and people, they're the best. They're the most fit individuals. If you ever really want a lesson in how this really works, watch a football game.
Oh.
And observe just how much the variance is in people's capacity and physique in just a football team. And you'll notice, like, a lot of people, like the linemen would make horrible wide receivers,
right?
Kind of thing, and vice versa. And yet they're all working as an athlete. They're all training as a football player. So when we're coming to fitness, like, if I'm just been on the couch for a while and like, I want to get in shape, I want to lose some weight, then an athlete is not what you want to train as. Instead, you want to train for fitness, which in many ways is exactly the opposite of being an athlete. Because when you are an athlete, you are training to excel at the rules and requirements of your game. When you are training for fitness, you're trying to learn how to operate and function better for your body. Now, right. Yes, there's a lot of crossover and carryover between the two, absolutely. But we have to make sure that we make that the priority. Because if we don't, then we get distracted and our attention goes towards things that may have absolutely nothing to do with what you actually want, may even steer you in the wrong direction. Like, how many people have you run into who are like, I'm into health and fitness, and they talk about how their back is always bothering them.
Oh.
They're always or they're exhausted all the time because they're training for a marathon. It's like, that's not health and fitness. That's training as an athlete, where you're pushing your body capability as much as it can, and you're trying not to break down in an effort to optimize performance. That's the opposite of health and fitness. It's not going to help you in the goal of, I want to be able to play roughhouse with my kids and stuff.
Right? I mean, think about it. How many, I've been working with endurance athletes since about 2006, and the triathletes, their determination is amazing. Their discipline is at a level, especially the Ironman ones, that I will never know, because I don't know that I could do 3 sports in repetitive stress sagittal plane. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. But like you talk to them and it's like, oh, my deep tissue person told me, or my physical therapist told me, or my chiropractor told me, or, oh my God, all these sore spots I have with the foam roller and after my race, oh God, I felt so horrible. And at mile 20 of my run, I'm like, you're not selling this to me. you're selling me, hey, if you want to break your body, sign up for a triathlon and train for a triathlon, you know? Plus, think about it. When you were racing your bike, because I found this, it gets lonely the higher your fitness level, or lonelier the higher your fitness level is. Because people that you could ride with initially, once your fitness level gets to a point where you have to ride with people as fast, or ideally, if you're racing people who are faster than you are, it cuts you off from a lot of social interaction and a lot of really beneficial community things, right? And it was a bummer. It was a bummer. It's like, I can't ride with these people unless it's a recovery day. Oh God, I'm losing fitness and yada, yada, yada. There was more stress involved. Then when I stopped, and one of the things that helped me the most, actually, Matt, was I put flat pedals back in my mountain bike. And that brought me back to a play mindset. That brought me back to the kid who loved riding around his neighborhood, just jumping off curbs and finding little mounds to ride over. And Jeremy and I were talking about building a ramp in the backyard. My son he's insane. He can already turn over about 120 RPMs. And we hit about 14 miles an hour the other day. Yeah, I've taught him to ride on my wheel. So now I'm his lead out guy around the neighborhood. It's awesome. Anyway, but it, that brought the play element back to mountain biking. Plus, I corner better with flat pedals on. It's very weird. I don't know why. But, I had to make that change, because when my clipless pedals are on my mountain bike, I am in racer athlete training mindset. It doesn't matter if I'm just going out for a half hour, I'm in that mindset. But if I have, and I'm wearing my kit, but if I have my flats on, I got baggies, I got my Curious George cycling jersey on, and I'm just out to ride and enjoy some nature and have a good time.
I like that. And I think that's a very good thing to really embrace, because when it comes to being elitist, when we're going after the top level stuff, we have to be more specific and precise and calculated in our approaches to do that. Like, you do not train for an Ironman or even a marathon without a very calculated approach to your training for most people, right? And so the more specific your goals are and the more elite you want to get in a particular activity, the more you're going to have to sacrifice in other areas of sport, other areas of functional ability. Give me any pro athlete who's one of the best in the world at what they do, and I'll like, great, you are really good at X, but you're probably going to be mediocre at best in most anything else that I give you. And there's carryover, of course. Like, if you're a top level mountain biker, you're probably going to be a pretty good runner and swimmer and stuff. But that's the thing we have to recognize, is the more when we get that elitist mentality, you're like, I want to be as good as I possibly can. Okay, well, the better you get in one particular area, the more you're probably going to suck in other areas. Be comfortable with that notion, because when we're going after an elitist mindset in fitness, we're thinking, well, if I get to be as good as possible in this area, I'm just going to be good at everything. It's like, no, you're probably going to suck even more in other areas. And that's not going to sit well with a lot of people with their ego. It's like, I'm the best marathoner. I'm so fast. Like, yeah, you can't do a pull-up to save your life kind of thing. And then, they might be like, I'm a super strong powerlifter, and like, run 1 mile and then come back to me and tell me that you can walk the next day. So we have to, and that's fine. Like, I'm not dissing that on anything, but I'm saying that's not the path we want to take if we want to be generally healthy and fit for the sake of health and fitness in and of itself. Again, that's going after a sport. That's very different from health and fitness.
Right.
We want to recognize that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how many people, or bike riders, fellas and ladies, that can go up average of 6% in 53.11 and just grind it out, no problem, but you put them on flat land without their shoes on, standing on a single leg, and they're a mess.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because they have trained their body for the task of riding a bike, and Dan John really breaks this down really well in his intervention book. But outside of that arena, then they struggle, because that's riding a bike. Let's be honest, it's a machine. It dictates your movement plane. It's repetitive stress. It tightens up the front half of your body. It lengthens the back half of your body. It throws your glutes offline. It could cause knee, ankle, hip pain, depending on your bike fit, if it's not the right one, or a saddle, fore, aft, handlebar, stem, all that good stuff. And it's a very good form of exercise. I love riding my bike, and nobody's going to take that away from me unless I have an injury or they tell me not to. But it's not something that I'm going to use to squat better. It's not something I'm going to use to be able to perform a push-up correctly, or a dip, or the ultimate fitness goal. I'll never exercise again the first time after I do my first muscle up. Right. And, it's not going to prepare me for that. It's going to keep my heart and my lungs strong. Sure. And it'll keep some of the muscles in my legs strong, but it's not going to help me function better on a daily basis.
Oh, now you see, you can't say things like that, Al, because whatever mode of exercise you're into, that's supposed to be the holy grail of fitness. So if you're a power lifter, everyone knows that if you can squat, bench, or deadlift, that makes you a better human being, and you're more functionally capable at everything, and everything else is a complete waste of time. Or if you're a calisthenics guy like me, well, then anything with over 5 pounds of weight, that's a complete waste of time. And obviously, if you're a runner, well, we're born to run. That's obviously the pinnacle of fitness. That's all you ever need and stuff. You see how we get into these little mindsets of this is the best way to do this. And it's not. No matter what method you're using, and no matter what discipline you're into, there are going to be gaps. There are going to be areas where you're going to suck, especially if you try and get really good at that one thing.
Yep.
No matter how much. Actually, the better you get at that, the more you try to pursue that elite level, the more you're probably going to suck at everything else. Mm-hmm. And this is why we were talking about the blue ocean strategy the other day. Like, my mission for Red Delta Project is trying to make fitness much more mainstream. The health and fitness practices more mainstream, because we've got gyms on every corner here in Colorado, and we got Whole Foods and everything, and sure, it's gotten more popular, but in my opinion, and correct me if you disagree with this, but I still think the basic habits of taking care of ourselves is not mainstream enough. It's not popular enough.
No, I agree. And think about it. There's a really good book. The guy that founded Precision Nutrition, John Berardi, it's called Changemaker. And he talks about, and I never thought about this until I read this book, and I was somewhat ashamed that I ever thought about this. Most fitness marketing is aimed at people who are already exercising. And statistically, we know that, is it even double digits across the country in terms of the populace as a whole? Is it a double digit percentage? That leaves a lot of people who could use the help to start to develop their movement habit. 5 minutes of walking here, 2 minutes of walking here, and then maybe the next week it's 3. And then eventually over the course of the year, you build up to 15 or 20 minutes of walking, So I think that you are spot on in that we're getting off track, I think, as an industry to some extent. I think it's skewing more towards a population of people who are already there in terms of they exercise, they get it, whatever. And then you have the segment that it's medically mandated. Hey, you better exercise or you're in pain or whatever. But there are so many people that they won't exercise. And I've talked to people, how many times have you heard, I can't work with you? Well, why not? Because I'm not in good enough shape. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. You want to work out to be able to get in shape to work out. Okay. It's a weird thing, but I have heard that so many times. It's like, no, just move. That's not, you don't do that. You can do that if you'd like. That is your prerogative. However, everybody was a beginner at some point. And I think that I still consider myself a beginner, particularly in bodyweight calisthenics training. I think I'll always be a beginner because I was brought up with International Chest, Shoulders, and Tries Day on Monday, and Interstellar, Intergalactic Bicep, Legs, and Back Day on Tuesday, and then Thursday you repeat Monday, and Friday you repeat Tuesday, and you better not do cardio because they'll yank your bro science card, all that kind of stuff. So the whole calisthenics world, it was open to me by GMB doing one of their rings programs. And then I discovered your stuff, and then Tim and Jacko and some of the other people that you've had on the pod. And boy, I tell you, nothing made me feel less athletic and more of a beginner than starting to work on body weight stuff. But when that has become consistent, then I can function better and do other things. Now, if I let just on fitness marketing steer me in my workouts and the ones I give other people, it would be HIIT every day. It would be 14 HIIT sessions a week. It would be go train and do a Spartan event 5 times a month. And I would be broken. My orthopedic surgeon would probably name kids after me because I see him so much.
And that's the reason why I think in the pursuit of getting healthy habits to be more mainstream, why the top elite level elitist mentality is really the great barrier to making that happen. Because I know tons of people where they've come to me and they're like, oh, I've got this ache or this pain, or I wish I could move better. And I'm like, okay, let me give you a couple exercises. And a million times I've been told, Matt, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not like you. Assuming that in order to get any sort of benefit, you have to pursue those elite goals. You have to be the athlete. You have to try and strive and make it your whole focal point of your life is eating and exercise and stuff. And you have to become a certain kind of person just to be healthier. That's kind of like telling someone, oh, your teeth hurt a little bit here. Let's brush and floss twice a day. I'm not a dentist. Like, come on, get that stuff out of here. Here, it's called Listerine. Rinse out a couple times. Your breath, you'll feel better and refreshed. I'm not a dentist. I'm not a hygiene expert. I'm not going to bother with that. But that's the same attitude we have, because we're stuck between this idea of I'm either going after the gold, an elitist type of approach is go big or go home, or screw it. There's no sense in even trying. I'm going to eat potato chips and just die happy kind of thing. And I think there's so much benefit, and there's so much we don't realize, is that we need to take this fitness stuff mainstream, because my pursuit of principle-based fitness has taught me so much that you can radically improve your quality of life, and you don't need to make diet and exercise the focal point of your life. You don't even have to make it a big part of your life. But if you can get from someone who kind of falls into the back of a chair when they sit down to someone who can do a simple body weight squat under control, ass to grass, just that will make a massive difference in how you walk, stand, how you can move, how you can climb stairs. It'll change the whole quality of your life. And no, it doesn't take, go big or go home, and I don't quit when I'm done, I quit when I'm finished mentalities. It's like I do 10 body weight squats a day. It's like brushing your teeth. I'm not a dental hygienist, right? But I do these little things that keep my mouth healthy every single day. How do we get to this point with diet and exercise to the point where we can reach the mainstream population? Because that's where they're going to get the most benefit, without feeling like you have to be this extreme athlete in order to make it worthwhile.
You use what Jeff Olson wrote about in his book, The Slight Edge Mentality. And this book is amazing. It was a game changer for me. The book, the title is called The Slight Edge, Turning Simple Disciplines into Massive Success and Happiness. The premise of the book is do one super small thing every single day without fail, consistently, because that little nugget that you start with in a month is a boulder, right? In 2 months, that consistent daily habit and consistent pattern of discipline, that boulder is going to turn into a mountain, and so on, right? I mean, think about it. When somebody reaches a very, very high level of fitness, it's not, they didn't wake up one day, hey, I'm fit. No, right? They did their first rep of an exercise. They got their first night of 8 hours of sleep. They had their first day, instead of eating, and I'm guilty of this. My kids love the Cliff Bars, the kids Cliff Bars. Man, they're so good, guilty pleasure. But, maybe don't eat one of those one day. Great. Then day 2, don't eat it. Day 3, don't eat it, right? And just start stacking these little habits. And then eventually you look back and it's like, wow, my clothes fit a little better. Hey, I banged out 20 push-ups today instead of 15 because I used the backfilling strategy taught to me by the Red Delta Project, all that kind of stuff. So it's just get into the mindset of consistency. That's why I really truly believe that developing a movement habit is so much more effective and let's be honest, less stressful than getting the perfect workout program I have to stick to no matter what. It's no, I mean, there are days where I don't feel like moving. I just don't. I don't want to do the workout that I have planned, but okay, let's try 5 to 10 push-ups. How's that feel? All right. Maybe do a couple suspension trainer rows. Okay. And let's maybe bang out a few single leg squats. All right, cool. And 15 minutes later, I've moved. I feel accomplished. My brain's a little clearer, and I go on about my day. And I don't beat myself up with, oh man, I didn't get in my hour workout and my warm up and my workout and my 5-minute finisher and yada yada yada. It's just like you can give yourself permission to have an off day, mostly because you're human. And being human, you're going to go up, right? There are going to be times where you can just put that pedal to the floorboard and you can go, and I see this in my business life, when my creativity, there are times where that floodgate is wide open and I can write and write and write and write. And there are times where I can't buy a syllable. I don't know if you've experienced that with your writing and whatnot, but
never, no.
Yeah, whatever, Pinocchio. But you have to paint on the canvas that your body gives you. Like it would be, I like basketball. Basketball's fun. I enjoy it. Oh, I know I'll never be able to dunk unless it's on a Nerf rim. I'm 5'7.5", 5'8", depending on the pair of shoes I'm wearing. My parents gifted me the ability to go in a straight line very fast for a short amount of time. They didn't gift me the ability to go up with power. So I know, don't do that because it'll be a fool's errand. All you're going to do is get frustrated and angry and feel bad about yourself and everything else, right? So if you just stay consistent within your toolbox, and you can develop other tools here and there, there's nothing to say that you can't have goals and work towards those goals, but do it in a way where you set yourself up to win and be consistently successful with what you're doing. Because how many times have people asked you, what is the best exercise to do? And it's simply the one you will.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand this now. We're getting our feet wet with this idea, but there's that lure of the extreme.
Right.
People have told me, I mean, how many coaches have told you this, where they're like, everybody wants the easy path, everybody wants the shortcuts. And I used to say that kind of thing, but you know what? I think that's the hardest thing to try and sell somebody. And like if you put a diet, like my 3P strategy, like I've had people email me saying my 3P strategy alone just took care of their diet. They're done nutrition wise. They're good. Just every time you're eating a meal, make sure you're getting some plant-sourced foods, some protein-sourced foods, and monitor your portions. If you want to lose weight, portions go down. If you want to gain weight, portions go up. Those 3 things: plant, protein, and portion. Very, very simple, right? That is the hardest thing for me to convince somebody to try, by far. But if I make a diet that has 20 variables and it's extreme and you got to go by the phase of the moon and you have to have blood readings and make sure and like meditate for 20 minutes facing due east every day and make all these complicated things, it'll sell like hotcakes.
Right.
Because complicated sells. Extreme sells. Because we think the only thing that's worthwhile is an extreme result. So therefore, we need an extreme method. So simple things like do 10 push-ups a day, Do, get some protein every meal of the day. Forget the other two P's, just protein each meal. Just get that for the next couple of weeks. Man, that's like pulling teeth trying to get people to do that. It's so incredibly hard because of the lure of the extreme. And as you're mentioning in your book, it's like, but the extreme doesn't pan out very well for people. As a
No.
New Year's resolution, I take extreme action. February comes, oh, I gave up on that.
Well, think about it. I've written articles with titles to the effect of, you want exciting results in the gym, do boring workouts, right? And people are like, what? No, that kind of thing. But think about it though, Matt. I mean, you watch, well, when there were sports highlights to watch, who gets the shoe contract? Who gets the media time? The guy who put down the boring bunt to move the runner into scoring position, because it's a basic fundamental thing they teach you at the age of 7 or 8, or the guy that got the hit that drove the runner in, that the boring guy bunted over or sent to 90 feet closer to home plate, right? I mean, the boring set up the exciting. Now, how many times does that happen? A Hail Mary play or a buzzer beater, or some guy in the last second, NHL playoffs, lights the lamp and puts the biscuit in the basket because he got set up with a perfect assist from somebody else, right? Or in cycling, lead out man, or the team time trial, which is the epitome of function together, actually. But the simple doesn't sell. It works the best.
Yep.
We know that. You've written books about that. We teach people that, but it's simple doesn't sell because simple isn't sexy. Even though it produces the results that are on the exciting, exotic side, simple approaches in exercise and fitness they're not exciting. You have to have a certain level of I believe, discipline, and just to be able to kind of relax and settle in for a long duration and play the long game, where this point click fit mentality and culture that's being pervaded, I think you're going to see a shift, because I think people right now, particularly the ones that are exercising at home, they're going to start to realize, and I firmly believe this, that they're not going to need menu items A through Z. They're going to need, okay, well, I can use my body weight, and well, I want to add one more element. Okay, well, maybe I'll get a set of bands, or maybe some carpet sliders, or maybe a stability ball, or maybe a suspension trainer, and I'll be pretty good. I mean, think, with an exercise band, you can do hundreds of things, 400 or 500 things. Body weight, the potential, body weight, you're limited by your imagination, more or less. Right?
You throw in a suspension trainer and
boom, right?
Some simple tools like that, and you got everything.
Yeah. So I think that the other side of this thing, normal is not going to be what we thought normal was for the fitness industry beforehand. I think there's going to be a new normal that's going to be closer to simple than it is extreme. Because I think people are going to start to see that what's really important. Like right now, if perspective is not something that people are gaining, I'd be really surprised. For instance, within the first week, I stopped going after trying to put on muscle and get lean and everything else, because the level of energy I had to put out to train people in a different medium and the level of stress that I now have in my life took away my ability physically and mentally to go hard. So now it's, okay, I got a half hour, right on. Let's get the bands, let's push, pull, squat, yay. Or let's push, pull, and squat with a suspension trainer. Or maybe I'm just doing split stance, single arm press and pull with a band to get all my diagonals and get all those connections put back together. And then I go about my day after 20 minutes. Because when I'm off the clock with training, I'm then on the clock with the kiddos, so my wife can then get on the clock with her job, right? So we're tag teaming all day long. So I don't have the luxury of time that I used to have. So by necessity, simple is now the way of life with everything. Going through different subscriptions, I don't need that anymore. I thought I did. I had to have this subscription to this streaming service and yada, yada. I'm not watching that anymore. I'm on a screen all day long with Zoom stuff. The last thing I want to do is look at a screen, Although I will admit I'm keeping the DC universe because I'm the world's biggest Batman nerd. I will watch Batman cartoons around the clock And I'm not giving up Hulu because Matt and I need to send Seinfeld quips back and forth to each other. In fact, yesterday I saw the episode, "You're killing independent George." A George against himself cannot be, I think simple in brilliantly mid to late May, maybe June, when things start opening up here, whoever the hell knows what's going to happen, people are going to have a different perspective. And I think simple is going to be the motif. And fitness trainers who get out in front of that and realize that simple is going to be the way to go. And they adapt your micro workout strategy and your backfilling strategies and the simplicity of Jiro dreams of sushi kind of approach to things, then they're the ones who are going to survive a lot longer. The ones who are expecting people to go back to their HIIT classes and their big group things here and there, I think they're going to be in for a little bit of a wake up, because I think it's going to take people a little while to get used to being back in the water, like in Jaws, right? When the mayor was telling people, "Hey, go to the beach," and people were like, "No, we're going to wait for a bit." And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think we, as an industry and as professionals in the fitness world, we're going to have to hold on to simple for a very, very long time. And I think there's going to be a shift towards basics again. And I think that a shift towards basics is going to simplify everything for everybody. And as trainers, I think it's going to make our lives easier for the ones that gravitate towards that and grab onto that energy and run with it. I think that the ones that don't and are going to try to force that square back into the round hole, that's not going to exist anymore. I mean, let's be honest. Everything's going to change. Normal's not going to be in 6 weeks, but it was 6 weeks ago. I think those are the people who are going to see the biggest benefit. And I think as a whole, society's going to go towards a more simplified lifestyle.
Boy, I sure hope you're right, man, because
I think two of us.
Simple's going to open it up for a lot more people too. I mean, it's going to pull us back from that lure of the extreme, because the best way to get results that I have long found is that simple, basic, and I mean, when I was in equipment sales back in the day, I remember we used to sell weight machines like that. I used to build like 5 or 6 a week, and now I think the same company is building 5 or 6 a season. And it was, at the time, it was like, look at this machine. It does 5,000 mazillion exercises, and you got every angle you can work. And now people are going out and being like, can I get a pull-up bar?
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
Maybe a kettlebell as well. Because if that's the case, then it's going to finally open up fitness to be more mainstream. And yes. I know a lot of people aren't going to really be too comfortable with that, because up until now, we've been selling the idea that it has to be extreme. Yep. It has to be a lifestyle. I mean, every time someone's like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle, I'm like, oh God, that's even worse. Like, I don't want my food choices to require so much attention and discipline that it takes over how I can live my life. Because that's what it means. When someone's like, my diet is so extreme, it's a lifestyle in itself, that means I'm basically living, and my daily decisions are based around how I choose to eat, which is great if that's really what you want to do with your life. I'm not knocking it, but it's by no means necessary for someone who's like, I just want to lose 10 pounds and feel better. That's not at all necessary. So the simple and basic opens that up. And I would love to see that happen for people to adopt fitness who aren't into fitness,
right?
Who aren't into this sort of thing, because I've seen it happen with computers. Back in the day, I don't know when you were a kid and stuff, but back in the day, I remember arguing with a friend of mine when he was saying computers are one day going to be mainstream. Everybody's going to use them. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to have computers. And I was yelling at him going, you're an idiot. I hate you. Like, I was just pissed off because at the time, like, I hated computers. The only people who used computers were nerds and geeks back when it was a bad thing to be a nerd. Right? Now it's cool. Imagine how that happened, right?
Yeah, the geeks shall inherit the earth, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now, I mean, you're using a computer. I'm using a computer. I got another one here. I got another one behind me and stuff. We're waiting in line for the next, iPhones and stuff. Computers went mainstream, even if you're not into computers. We need, and my opinion or my goal with RDP is to make that happen so that someone who doesn't give a crap about macronutrients, who doesn't give a damn about what their heart rate threshold is and stuff, can still have the tools to say, I'm going to be able to take better control of my health and fitness and live better, even though I don't give a damn about anything about fitness. That to me is where I'm hoping this whole thing leads. Maybe, maybe not, but
Right.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Well, I think that it's going to be dependent on how we as an industry and fitness professionals begin to hopefully start that mind shift, right? Because it's going to be a while. It's not going to be one of those things to where it's like, hey, extreme, too simple,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to happen like that. The brake pedal is not going to get slammed into the floor. I think what's going to happen is as people's lives return back to some semblance of what normal used to be, they're going to realize they didn't need as much as they thought they did before, and that they're going to embrace simple, not only in the fitness world, but potentially in a lot of other areas in their lives. I mean, and think about how many books like the Maria Kondo stuff, does this spark joy? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe it doesn't spark joy anymore. We'll get rid of it then. I mean, how good does it feel to gut your closet of stuff? Because you don't need it anymore. Because it's just like, so I think people are going to feng shui their lives. They're going to start clearing out clutter. And minimalism to some extent might make a comeback. I don't think it's going to be universal because I don't know that it's ever going to go away. But I think that a more minimalistic approach to life is something that a lot of people might start to embrace once they realize that the other side of this thing, a lot of things that I thought were important weren't really that important.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I've noticed this big time in my own life, and this is one of the things that it doesn't make me worried or cause anxiety, but it is one of those things that now that I'm, well past 40 and stuff, I'm looking back on my life and like, my gosh, there's so much stuff in my life that I put so much of my time and attention to. Looking back, like, it really wasn't that important. Like, I wasted so much of my resources on that. Meanwhile, there's other stuff. It's like, I should have really been paying more attention to X, Y, and Z. And so now my mindset is like, what am I putting my resources into that isn't that important? And what am I ignoring that is? And that's kind of my approach with fitness with RDP is I used to think I need 15 different exercises to work my chest effectively, right?
Right.
And now I'm like, just get really good at doing a couple of basic moves, dips and push-ups. You get good at those, you're going to be plenty fine for your chest. So the proficiency rather than the variety is one such example. So I think we're all going to start doing that more, of shifting into more of what is most important. And I think we're all going to be better off for it. I've always had the mentality that when things like this hit, the long-term benefits are worth it.
Yeah.
My personal belief is that in the course of creation, not to get too metaphysical, but in the course of creation, bad things happen, but the benefits and lessons are longer lasting. Like, you touch a flame when you're a kid, it hurts, and you maybe have a sore finger for a day or two, but you learn to respect fire for the next 80 some odd years you're alive. Yep. So those 2 days of discomfort led to 80 years of benefit. So that's my perspective on things like this. Like, this may seem like it's a lot of trouble and stress and stuff, but we're going to have ripple effects that have beneficial results for years after this. And you're going to have people who are going to be telling their life stories, and they're like, yeah, I used to do X, Y, and Z, and then, quote, coronavirus hit. And it sucked at the time, but holy smokes, my life has been better off in these ways because of it.
Well, think about something as simple as washing your hands, right? I'll be honest, I didn't do the birthday thing in the 20s. I was just like, But now it's like, I'm washing my hands all the time, and I'm doing it for 25 to 30 seconds, making sure I'm getting between the fingers, the nails, all that kind of stuff. So now that's a new habit for me, and it's going to be beneficial. And I don't know how you feel about this, and I know I've been touching my face here and there. I didn't realize how much I touched my face prior to all of this happening. There's no way in hell that my face itched as much as it does now before all of this happened, right? I mean, I started going for my face, and it's like I almost want to, get your hand away from there. Get your sweatshirt or get your hat or something, and then touch it. Okay, now it's all right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. So I think that hygiene habits might get better. That's not a bad thing, right? There might be more people coughing and sneezing into an elbow rather than not. So, I don't think I'm ever going to convince my son of that because he seems to think that coughing and sneezing right in my face is a funny thing, but whatever. He's 5. He does that. But I think the civilized human beings, they'll probably figure that out. And, if it cuts down on people getting colds or whatever, long term, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a silver lining out of something that's really bad.
Yeah, we'll be better off in the long run. So we have to keep in mind and that idea and look for these opportunities to grow and advance now. Because if we get mentally and emotionally stuck into a negative place, we'll lack the fuel and the resources internally to be able to take advantage of those sorts of things. Because some people, they're going to come through this and they're going to be way better off than they were when they started. And some businesses are going to be like that. And some societies, I mean, it's global, are going to be like that. And some are going to feel like they got nailed and they just can't recover for years. And I think a lot of it depends on our attitudes and our perspectives and the habits we're starting to form now. We can't wait for it to be over to be like, all right, so are we going to be better off or worse off? We've got to start taking action now with, again, those simple daily habits that you can do every single day, the simple stuff that will help take it mainstream and make it more of a main part of your life without having to be extreme and high maintenance and therefore stressful.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I agree 100%. And you've already seen it to some extent. Think about how customer service models are starting to change and the amount of communication from different companies that you might purchase things from or whatever. They're really making sure you're informed and you know what's going on. And I think that's going to be a nice side benefit. I mean, again, if there are silver linings to this whole thing. So it's a horrible time. It's a very stressful time. Hopefully it's not something that is a seasonal thing in terms of we get it now, summer we get off and we get it back in the fall. Who knows? Best we can do is take care of ourselves, wash hands and keep your fingers crossed and stay simple.
Absolutely. Al, it's always great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. Once again, remind the people where they can find you.
They can find me at integratefitness.com. They can also find me on Instagram. Do you integrate? I hang out mostly on Instagram, not so much in Twitter. Twitter, I go just to kind of hang out and then just read what other people are doing. But Instagram is where I put up most of my stuff. But beware, my stuff is very boring. It's not Insta worthy. It's just basics: pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging. I don't even do too much with load carrying because I'm not an iron person anymore, simply for the fact that I'm 48 and it takes me too long to recover from iron. I love it, but it takes me too long to recover. So you'll see a lot of band stuff. You'll see a lot of suspension training, and I'll dabble in the calisthenics, but I leave the calisthenics stuff to people like Matt, people like Tim and Jacko, because I wouldn't feel right putting calisthenic stuff up and trying to sell it as my own original material. So there you go.
That's why I'm not putting up band stuff, I defer to your expertise for that.
Well, there we go. We can put together a master recipe for sure. Matt, thank you so much for having me on the show. It is an absolute honor. For those of you who are still listening and can still stand the sound of my voice, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And just many, many, many thanks, Matt, for everything you do for the industry, how you've shaped my philosophies, and how you are helping people embrace movement.
Excellent, man. Thank you so much for your time. And like he said, everybody, his stuff is bland, it is simple, it is boring, which means it is freaking awesome. And you should listen to what this man says. Go definitely take a look at his stuff. I've been learning a lot from it, and it's very potent and effective as well. So doyouintegrate.com? Is that the website? Or
integratefitness.com.
Okay.
Do You Integrate is Instagram, and I have something called Simple Circuit Saturdays as a hashtag as well. And actually, one of my hashtags is Basics Work Best. The Simple Circuit Saturday is I just pick 3 simple movements and I put them together in a circuit, just like it sounds. So you're trying to get some movement nuggets there.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. All right, everybody. If you've been listening, thank you so much for your time and attention. We sincerely appreciate it. We hope you stay happy, healthy, and sane out there. Go out, get some fresh air, get some activity and stuff. and let us know if you have any questions, reddeltaproject@gmail.com, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, of course, leave comments down below as well. Thank you very much as always. Talk to you next week. Till then, be fit, live free.